Hey guys, so as you've probably heard me talking about, the big variance update is coming this Thursday, a few days from the time of this recording. It's not here quite yet, and when it does come, lots of physical based units are going to be getting a pretty big damage gain, like every single Dragoon. Units that are using like bad two-handers like great swords and katanas, those are all being fixed to be, very good after the variance update. So like Esther, Kane, etc., they're all getting a really big damage gain on Thursday. That's the reason I'm deciding to not do my final clear on Kokuryu until after that patch, because I'm just going to have to do it again anyway. So, let's do it after the patch. But I did sit down and plan out my clear and calculate the damage and all. And nothing's really going to change as far as what I'm doing between now and Thursday. So I figured I'd go ahead and record my clear now. And then I'll just do it again on Thursday. So this is going to be the exact same clear that I'm doing on Thursday. Now things may or may not change. I may make alterations to my clear and strategy as the next 12 days of remaining Dark Visions continue. But this is the current plan. The only difference planned between now and Thursday is that on Thursday, the damage will just go significantly higher than it is right now. But we're going to do a clear. I'm going to show the gear and all. That way on Thursday, if I start with other things like the EX battle and all, and you guys really want to jump into the Dark Visions right away, you'll have the video and the guide. But I'll probably just rerun it again after the update. So anyway, so this guy does AoE physical ice damage, AoE magical thunder damage, and some single target ice damage over time. And I'll explain the gear and all more at the end. But for now, Zahn is currently provoking, with evasion of course, and resistance. Now he's going to dual cast on Carbuncle, reflect on himself and then protect, so that we don't deal much damage to the boss as we set up. Sephiroth is now going to do his shifted LB to stack up. So is Lara Croft, stack up her LB. Kane can just guard for this first turn. Esther is going to triple cast Bolting Impact, not Slice. That's going to fill her LB gauge for later. And then Sky can just Rallying Cry to fill LB gauge for the party, specifically Zahn, and you'll see why in a moment. But Zahn's already good to go. Okay, so there's the single target physical on turn 1. Also a damage over time, keep that in mind. So even if you're evading, your provoker still needs ice immunity, even if evading. So now it is turn 2, so we're going to use Sephiroth to go back to the base form, and he'll just Rallying Cry to help fill LB gauge. We're going to use Zahn to do his Limit Burst. This is an AoE double stack Mirage. It's not going to matter for this turn, but we're going to need it next turn. It'll still be there next turn. Esther is going to use her LB. That's going to put up the field for 10 turns, and it'll still be there on our kill turn, so it'll apply to everyone. We're going to go to the base form with Laura and just double normal attack with dual wield and her TMR. That refills her LB gauge. Sky on this turn can just Rallying Cry again. Now this turn, the boss is going to do AoE Thunder magic damage. Now no one on the party is wearing Thunder Resist gear, so we're going to use Kane to Nethicite that. That way we don't have to worry about resistance gear. So that's going to absorb the Thunder attack this turn. And there, the boss does the ice single target every single turn of the entire fight, so your provoker just always needs that ice immunity. Okay, so now we're going to do True Stormbrand on Esther. That's a Thunder Imbue, which is going to matter later. We're going to shift Laura and give her another stack. Sephiroth can just Rallying Cry this turn. So can Sky. We're just hanging out for those two. Zahn is this turn going to double cast. We're going to critical on Esther because she has a 350 attack buff this turn, which we're going to steal, and we're going to elemental on Esther to steal that Thunder Imbue. Now Kane, doesn't need to do anything. We're just going to repeat. There's nothing to Nethicite on turn 3, but it's one of those whatever things. So here's the AoE physical. Ice physical. Now because we did Zahn's LB on turn 2, we miraged that physical. It was still there, so we didn't take any ice damage. You could also do things like ice resist, or if you're Omni covering with Esther, that's an option, and she's evading. All that's fine, but I'm just using Mirage. That's all we really need. That's fine. So Zahn on this turn is going to, on turn 4, we're going to refresh the reflect and protect onto the boss. That's going to, now it's going to wear off on its own by turn 9. And for this clear, turn 9 is our kill turn. So back to the base form with Laura. She's going to normal attack to just refill her LB gauge. Sephiroth and Sky can just Rallying Cry. We honestly don't even need a Rallying Cry. No one needs LB. It's just like those two just have nothing to do. But just make sure you never guard anyone that has stacks currently. And obviously Sephiroth currently has LB stacks, and we want him to be okay. Esther, on the other hand, has no stacks. She can just guard. Now, every even turn is the AoE Magical Thunder. So this one, we do need a Nethicite. So we're going to Nethicite that Thunder attack with Kain. It's every single even turn. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, etc. There we go. Not a problem. No damage taken. So this turn, we're going to go ahead and get that chain count score out of the way on turn 5. Turn 5 is a relatively whatever turn. So we're going to chain to 100. We're not chaining to 100 on the kill turn. Now, something to keep in mind. On turn 5, every 5th turn, so 5, 10, 15, the boss does another AoE Magical Thunder attack, but this one cannot be Nethicited. So you need to either be immuning it through gear or resisting it, or for a buff, or covering it with a magical tank or whatever, which I don't recommend, but it is an option. But the whole party in their quote-unquote safe form is wearing immunity, except for Esther. She is going to shift on this turn to the shift form, which is wearing not DPS gear, wearing resist gear. So we're going to get that chain count score out of the way. So Kain can just do Nethicite. There's nothing to Nethicite this turn. I'm just keeping him on reload for ease of convenience. But Sky is going to triple SR in the shift form, which is, I'm sorry, the base form. Sky is in the base form this turn. She actually should have been, I lied to you. We're shifting Sky this turn to the shift form. No, we're not. I'm such a liar. Okay, so we're going to Stardust Ray Sky in the base form. I got a little confused there, but we're fine. Okay, we're going to triple Bolting Strike Laura in the base form. Sephiroth is going to triple SR in his base form. In the shift form of Esther, she's going to triple Bolt. Actually, we're going to just guard. We're just going to guard Esther on this turn because we don't want to waste her LB gauge, and we don't need to. Zahn is going to triple Bolting Strike. Okay, so we're going to chain the 2 Bolting Strikers and the 2 SR units, and that's going to be a greater than 100 count chain score. And there it is. 100 count chain score, done. So this turn is an AoE Magical Thunder attack that cannot be Nethicited. But everyone on the currently active form is immuning it. Now we're going to go back to the base form of Esther. But this turn, she has nothing to do, so she'll just guard. Turn 6. So turn 6, we do need... Okay, before we do anything, let's have Kain do his setup. So we're going to be killing on turn 9. So turn 6 is when Kain starts his rotation for that burst. So we do the setups starting 3 turns before the burst. So we're going to cool down Magnus and then just whatever with Kain. That gets him good to go. Sephiroth is going to use his base form LB, which is a 4-turn 125 Imperil to Darkness, which is better than his regular Dark Imperil. We're going to use Sky to imbue herself with Wind. Now that I think about it, her jump is naturally Wind element, so that's actually an irrelevant step, but it doesn't hurt. But we can actually just mark that off my list. That is not important. So Sky can do whatever this turn. Okay, so Lara Croft is going to 1,000 Needles, because turn 6 is going to be an AoE physical attack that we need to Mirage. So 1,000 Needles handles it for us. Zahn is going to Reflector. This is going to, now he's going to critical on himself and elemental on himself. This is going to refresh those buffs he stole earlier from Sky, just to make sure they don't fade. And he's going to Mystical Mirror as his 3rd cast. That is a Nethicite effect to stop the magical thunder damage on even turns. So Zahn is our Nethicite this round, because Kain was busy. So there we go. There's the Nethicite. Here's the Mirage for the physical. Good to go. No damage taken. So now, On turn 7, we're going to use Esther to Quantum Storm on Zahn. That's going to give Zahn extreme Nova frames, which is going to allow him to chain with Esther on the kill turn. Now, I do realize Zahn's LB does the same thing, so you don't technically have to do that with Esther this turn, but in case you replace Zahn with someone else, whatever, it's just, something I'm doing. So Sky is going to be using her normal attack jump in this clear. It actually outdamages her LB with my personal gear. I think with Tybus's STMR, her LB can do more damage, but I don't have enough copies to go around. So we're going to use Sky's normal attack jump. Keep in mind, right now, her jump is really bad because we're using double hand. So it's going to do low damage, but after the maintenance on Thursday, Dragoons, including Sky, get a tremendous damage gain from double-handing jumps. So Sky's jump is going to hit decently hard on Thursday. I still think it's actually not better than her LB with Tybus's STMR, especially with Esther's field as well. But again, I don't have enough copies of Tybus's STMR to go around. If I did, I'd probably be using Sky's LB. In any case, we're going to use Sky to shift on this turn, and we're going to do her Severe Squall, Overcast Skies, and Sharp Spear Focus. Now, this, keep in mind, is a 150 self-only Dragon and Undead Killer buff. This is where we're getting our Undead and Dragon Killer buffs from. We're going to steal that with Zahn, as you've probably realized at this point. Lara Croft on this turn is going to shift and do Volatile Ammunition for that 90% Spirit break. 90% defense break. Also, it's a big fire amplify, big fire imperil, etc., which is going to matter for later. Sephiroth on this turn is just going to do his Magnus ability for the dark amplify and all that. Zahn is going to double cast. We're going to critical on Sky. That's going to steal those killer buffs. Also, he's still holding the Thunder Imbue and the big 350 attack buff from Esther from earlier. And we're going to go ahead and projected those buffs right now. There's really no reason to wait at this point. We may as well just get it over with, the sharing, because it's possible they could always fix the fact that Zahn shares buffs to Dragoons in the air during maintenance. So we're going to go ahead and share it while Kain is still on the ground. That might not be important, but there's no reason not to either. So we're going to go to the base form with Kain. Don't forget to shift him to the base form that is wearing all the DPS gear. And we're going to jump on out of here, because unfortunately Kain's jump is a 2-turn jump, unlike Sky's, who is a 1-turn jump. Okay, so we're going to be killing next turn. So before we do anything, we're going to use Esther to get ready. We're going to triple. We're going to start with her Magnus. Do the Magnus first. We don't want to push any damage on the boss. And we're going to do Energizing and True Stormbrand. That gets her fully good to go for next turn, and it refills her LB gauge. Also, you'll notice the boss's Protect that we bounced earlier is going to be fading next turn, which is exactly what we want. That's our kill turn. Sephiroth is going to Tybus's Spirit. If I had more copies, Sky would do that as well this turn, but I don't have more copies. Lara Croft is going to go back to the base form. Now, this turn, she's going to do Double Hot Shot and Explosive Shot. That's going to imbue her with fire. You might notice we don't really have a good AoE amplify unit for the party. So everyone on the party is doing their own personal amplifies, and I'll talk more about the stuff during the setup in a moment. Now Sky in the shift form can just do her normal attack, which is her jump. It's been powered up, and then there we go. Turn 8 is an even turn, so obviously turn 8 is the magical attack. So this turn, Zahn can just do Mystical Mirror to Nethicite that magic attack. And there we go. And okay, it is time for bursting. So we're going to shift Lara this turn. She's going to do her shifted LB. Zahn is going to chain the skill that Esther gave, Chain Lightning. Esther is going to base form LB, and Sephiroth will shift and do his shifted LB. So, the way we're going to do this, we're going to send the Extreme Nova Chainers first. We're going to click Sephiroth immediately after that, As soon as you see the damage start to appear, we're going to click Laura, and then we're going to drop our Dragoons. It should be a 63 hit chain. Now, again, because we don't have the variance patch, and I am double-handing Sky and Kane ahead of schedule, their damage is going to be heavily nerfed. It's basically going to be half what it's going to be on Thursday. So their damage is cut in half. Sephiroth and Esther have bad variance today with great swords and katanas. That's going to cut their damage, by like 20-something%. So the damage you're going to see is going to go up a big chunk on Thursday. So let me go ahead and we'll see the damage, and then we'll go ahead and retreat before it locks it in, so I don't got to blow energy on rolls Thursday. So let's go ahead and do this. We wait for the damage to appear. We click everyone else, and we're looking for 63 chain. There it is. So let's get a quick peek of our bad variance, bad jumper stuff before the patch. 8.5. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and give up. So I did some calculations with the updated variance stuff on after the patch. So this team, after the patch, should have a damage range of absolute worst possible will be 9.5 billion after the patch. The average damage will be approximately 11.8-ish. And then the max damage, assuming everyone rolls perfect variance, it'll never happen. But if everyone did roll perfect variance, this team, based on my calculations, would do approximately 14.4 billion damage. Now that's good, for like the serious tryhards, you can just keep rerunning it over and over and over until you get like that perfect variance roll on everyone, or at the very least very high. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to run this fight maybe 5-10 times next week after the fix, and then I'll just accept the highest that I get at that point. But okay, so there was the way I'm currently planning to do the clear. So let me show you all the gear and all. So as far as everyone's DPS form, no one needs anything. No one needs any resist, evasion, nothing. We are negating all the damage except for turn 5. And on turn 5, we are all in a safe form. So let me go ahead and show you everyone's setup. So Sky, in the base form, is just using 100 ice and thunder resist. Technically, we don't even need ice resist because we mirage both ice attacks. So yeah, not even important. But we do need 100 thunder resist for that attack on turn 5. I did use the Craftsman's Book. I forgot that her normal attack is naturally wind element. So that's pretty irrelevant. Where's her normal attack? I'll show it to you. I don't see it. Well, in any case, you have to trust me. Her normal attack is naturally wind element, so we actually don't even need to imbue. I forgot about that when I built this team. I gave her Lion Emblem to fill LB gauge. Not really important. We don't really need status immunity, so there we go. Shift form is using a double hand spear build for jumping. Keep in mind, it's going to be terrible damage this week. The damage is going to be jacked up more than double next week by the jump fix. So, I wouldn't recommend to run this week unless you just really, really want to for some weird reason. So jump damage versus undead and dragons. Here is the build we're using. Sephiroth's card for the undead killer. Max jump damage, max reaper, and 225 dragon. I probably could potentially Moogle some STMRs and get better on her. Maybe I'll consider that, but I don't know, probably not. That was her build. Okay, and based on my damage calculations, I'll give you the breakdown. Her average damage will be about 1.4 billion, which is pretty much on the low end on this party. But the reason she's here is she's the source of our killers, and that is kind of a big deal. Dragoon Kane, in the shift form, is using 100 thunder resist. Also using a source of Nethicite. We're using Ash's STMR because it's a permanent source. You could also use the Nethicite materia. You could also just use Carbonk. No, we really can't because Zahn is busy that turn. Yeah, so you want to use Nethicite or resistance gear to stop the magical attacks on even turns. And then base form is again a double hand jump build, which is terrible damage this week. It'll be great damage next week. Chain cap up. Undead Killer, Dragon Killer, etc. 7,000 attack power. Mine's only EX2, unfortunately. Max Jump, Max Dragon, Max Reaper. And based on my calculations, his average damage will be approximately 3 billion. So he's the second best damage on this party. Now, the reason he's going to suffer pretty hard compared to units like Esther is Kane's kind of big handicap is he has bad amplifies. His personal amplify is pretty bad. He really, really wants someone like Ramo Sakura or Cetra Aerith on the party to amplify him better than his own. And with this party, I decided to not go with any kind of external amplify buffers. So Kane is taking a damage hit, but based on my calculations, adding an extra DPS like Sephiroth instead of an amplifier is adding more overall total party gain damage than amplifying units like Kane and Sky. Anyway, so that was Kane's build. So Lara Croft in the base form, dual wielding with her TMR. We gave her 1,000 needles to help boost or help do Mirage on turn 6. 100 Thunder Resist. Shift form. She's taking a really big damage penalty because she couldn't realistically gear for like great swords or katanas or spears to take advantage of our weapon imperils. So she has no weapon imperil whatsoever on this team. But she is obviously very important for the 90% defense break. Very important. You can use something like, hold on a second. Anyway, you could use something like Venera, which is going to do even less damage, or you could use like Hawkeye. He actually probably would do more damage than Laura. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not. Or no, Locke is going to do no damage at all. So basically, you want a good breaker. So here's the build we used: LB damage, etc. So 6,400 attack power, maxed LB, 225 Reaper, and 125 Dragon. Even with a gun build, she struggled on these killers because she's using my leftover gear, which is a little sad. But 90% breaker, absolutely critical for that big boy damage. Zahn is our provoker, so full evasion, passive provoke. He does need 100 ice resist. He cannot immune the ice, or he cannot evade the ice attack because he's getting damage over time with ice. So full ice, full thunder resist. Dual cast on Carbuncle so we can bounce back reflect. Make sure your Carbuncle has reflect and protect learned. He's got an LB fill build so that we can do his LB on turn 2 for AoE Mirage. We don't need it till turn 3, but it'll still be there on turn 3 when we do need it, if we do it on turn 2. He stole the killers from Sky and spread them to the party. So someone on the team has to be a chain bot for Esther. So there's really no downside to bring Zahn, because whoever you bring that chains with Esther is going to do basically 0 damage. Like, the best possible option would be like Neovision's Rain, because his LB is the same range as Esther. But Neovision's Rain, unless you're doing a fire team, if you're doing a fire team, Rain's great. If you're not doing a pure fire team, like, even though Rain at EX3, fully whaled out, is still doing pretty bad damage. That said, it's more than Zahn. I chose to go with Zahn because he can steal 150 to both killers, and based on my calculations, that was more overall damage than adding like Rain for his personal damage, which is just not there. Esther does the 100% LB damage field for the whole party, which is, well, it's really nice for people that use it. So for herself, for Sephiroth, and for Laura, it was good. If I had a second copy of Tyvus' STMR, it'd be good for Sky as well, but I can't, unfortunately, gear 2 people with that. By the way, Zahn's damage. Oh, Zahn. Zahn didn't deal damage. So Esther, here's her base form build. Her base form build is not using any kind of survivability, just pure damage. 7,400 attack, and maxed everything. Yeah, maxed Reaper, maxed Dragon, maxed LB damage. Shift form, which we do shift to on turn 5 for the attack we cannot stop, is just using some Thunder Resist or Thunder Absorb, whatever. We didn't really use the shift form at all. And based on my calculation, now she did the most damage because she had a personal 60% 60% Thunder Amplify, and that was a really big deal for herself. She did 3.7 billion approximately. She was the highest damage dealer on the party, mostly because we couldn't amplify anyone. Based on my calculations, if Kane had the proper amplify, he actually would have probably outdamaged Esther at EX3. But mine's only EX2 anyway, so there we go. And then Sephiroth in the base form. Now, he is using Spell Daggers for an auto-amplify to Thunder. This is, as far as I'm aware, the only source of auto-amplify Thunder in the entire game. There's only one copy, so hopefully you got it from the event. I gave it to Sephiroth because he is the third best damage dealer in my party. Other than that, base form, just wearing Thunder Resist, Tyvus' Spirit, and whatever. Shift form, damage versus dragons and undead. So here's his build. He does, undead killer really easily. I gave him a secondary card because I gave the good card to Sky to spread it out a little bit. Maxed Reaper, 275 dragon, and 300 LB damage. Based on my calculations, Sephiroth did 2.7 billion. Again, the same problem is because he had no Thunder Amplify other than the janky 10% from the dagger. So that really lowered his damage quite a bit. Now you might be wondering, why did I share the Thunder Imbue to the party instead of letting everyone just stay to their own element and not have to mix elements? The reason is for the elemental party slot of Dark Visions. We're on the Thunder party slot, and you have to have some form of Thunder element in your attack to qualify for that 20% damage gain bonus. It's a total damage gain bonus, meaning by mixing Thunder element into the attack of Laura, Sky, and Sephiroth, it increased their total damage by 20% because it qualified for the party bonus, but it did nerf their damage by mixing in and lowering their total amplify. But the net gain is better than the net loss by mixing elements without a good amplify. Now, this was my clear. This was the way I decided to do it. Is this the best way to do it? Probably not. I'm sure someone has a better clear out there. You might be saying in the comments, oh, you could change this, this, and this. And actually, I do appreciate those comments. So if you have suggestions, let me know in the comments, and I will potentially make those changes if I agree with you and think, oh, I can improve my score. And again, I'll be doing this next week after the variance patch, and we'll be locking in a clear, and we can actually see the damage breakdown at that point and see who rolled high, who rolled low, stuff like that. But I figured I'd go ahead and post the way I'm gonna do it in advance, so you can if you plan to do the same team, you can start gearing your team now. You can start practicing your rotation and all that before the actual patch comes on Thursday. So there it is. So hopefully I get that perfect 14 billion roll on Thursday, and I will see you then. Hope it helps.